Alright guys, here we go again. We're on a new project again today. We're going to be working on the Corolla. It's having a little bit of a idling issue, and if you've seen some of my previous videos, you'll know that so far I've changed the spark plug wires on a video. Some stuff that I haven't gotten on video was I've done spark plugs. I've also replaced the distributor cap, and I replaced the ignition coil on here, which, if I can get some light on here, on the Corollas, the mid 90s Corollas, underneath the cap, this right here, that is actually your ignition coil, so you have to take the distributor cap off to get to it and move some stuff around, what have you. But I've replaced the spark plugs. You guys have seen me replace the wires not too long ago. I replaced the distributor cap on this, the ignition coil, the rotor button. Still having a little bit of an idle issue. It runs fine when driving. It's just more or less when you're actually at idle at, say, a stoplight or something along those lines. Try to get you guys set up as best as possible. So today we're going to be replacing that idle air control valve, which on these cars, it's actually back up under here, which you'll see better once we get to it. Idle air control valves are going to be a little bit different on every car, as far as the style of them, where they're located, what you have to do to take them off. Something else we're going to be doing while we're here is we're actually going to be cleaning the front and back of the butterfly and the throttle body itself. So we're going to start taking all this apart. I'll be 100% with you guys. Never done it before, so it's going to be a learning experience, not only for you, but for me as well. So let's just jump into it. First thing we're going to have to do right out the gate is we're going to have to get the cold air intake system off, which is relatively simple on this car. Try to get you a little bit better setup so you can see. So on the side right here, we have our mass airflow sensor. It just unplugs. We're going to leave it inside here, and then we'll go back up here and we'll take off the clamp that holds the actual cold air intake tube to the throttle body. We'll just loosen it. I'll have to move this. For my particular setup, I have this little diagnostics box here that I'll have to undo to get it out of my way for temporarily. Now we'll get that out, and we can simply just lift this up and off. And because I have not taken the time to build a bracket for this to actually hold the cold air intake system up, I just temporarily zip tied it to underneath of that diagnostics tube. So now we have that out of the way. Now you can actually see our throttle body there. So I'm gonna try to do this as simply as possible without making more work for myself than I have to. So we're gonna lift the throttle up. We'll lift this little cable up. It just has a little notch in the side of it. So right there, you'll see that. There's also one on the bottom half of this that we'll have to get off. So we'll try to see how we can get that guy off of there as well. Should just spin up, and then this one will actually push through the back half of that. So we're just gonna pull on our cable, and then we'll just push on that little nipple there. Let's see if I can find where it's actually located at. Okay, so we're gonna do that, and then it actually pulls out the front like that. So now both of our throttle cables are disconnected. Let's see, what else do we need to take off to get to this guy? I think we need to loosen here and then also here to be able to get the cable completely off, or you could take this bolt and this bolt here, and that'll take that whole bracket off there. I don't want to take off any more than I have to, so I think we're just going to grab a wrench. We're going to loosen our throttle adjustments here and just kind of slip them out of place. I think that's going to be our easiest option. So yeah, let me grab a couple of wrenches. We might be able to take it off just the whole grommet. Oh, okay, good. So the whole rubber grommet actually just slid out for us on that one, so that's good. This one, however, does need to be loosened on that nut, so we'll definitely have to get a wrench to take that off with. We're going to try a 14 millimeter, see how that works out. Looks like that's going to be just fine. Give that a little hit. We don't need to loosen it a lot, just enough to get that out of our way. So we know that this is our lower, the one with the grommet is our upper. Let's see, we can go ahead and disconnect this little sensor here. Let's see, I believe it's just a press in, and then that's out of the way. Okay, so now you can see if I can get a little bit better light on it. That right there is actually our idle air control valve, and then you'll see there's a couple of hoses on it. Those actually will have a little bit of coolant flowing through those, but as I said earlier, our actual intended purpose is to get all of this off. So we may have to disconnect a couple of vacuum lines as well. So we know we have a bolt here, a bolt there. Looks like maybe another one down here, and then another one here, and then hopefully this will pop off as one assembly. I'm gonna try to take just a couple of these off that we know have to come off right away, just to get them out of the way while trying not to break them, because I do not have any replacement vacuum line. Okay, so we're gonna leave those there. And then I believe this runs to the vacuum actuator. So we're gonna undo that one. We'll leave it there. And then we're gonna undo this one here, which runs down to some type of other vacuum. So we'll just kind of tuck it over here like that out of our way. We're gonna push that one out of our way the best of our ability. I believe these are going to be 10 millimeter sockets. And we're gonna get out our little Wrist Saver 5000 here. That is not a 10 millimeter, so let's try, see what our next option is. I'm gonna say a 13 millimeter. I'm guessing. Yep. So let's go ahead. No, not a. So probably a 12. All right, let's try our 12 millimeter, because we definitely don't want to strip any of this. Looks like there's a little bit of either a little bit of corrosion or maybe a little bit of Loctite on that, not sure. Okay, so we're gonna leave that one for now. Move on down to our bottom one. And that one right there is a nut, so you're definitely going to want to be careful on making sure you don't drop that, because if you drop it, you might have a pretty bad day on trying to find that thing again. Generally, I would take the time to take like a piece of tape or something, or even like a paper towel, maybe stuff up in there. But we're just going to try to carefully pull that guy off of there. Or if you have a magnet, that would be even better. I don't have one for whatever reason. There we go. And then let's move around. Then we have one right back here as well that we need to get off. And I would definitely recommend, just because we don't know, not fully taking every bolt out of it until you 100% know. Yep, I felt the throttle body actually fall that time. And it does help. You don't want your motor to be up to temperature per se, but to maybe run your motor for, I don't know, 15 to 30 seconds just to get some a little bit of heat circulating would definitely help, especially when you're doing something like this, that you have a metal bolt going into aluminum. It'll heat that aluminum up for you and will allow you to just it'll give you easeability of getting things off. So it looks like our throttle body is now loose. I know we still have a few connections on here. Yeah, that's nice and loose now, so that's good. Yeah. So we do have a couple of hoses on the bottom that go to that idle air control valve, and then I know you guys can't see it, but up front here we have another sensor that plugs into the idle air control valve itself. I'm gonna try to see if I can't get that off. It might be a little difficult until we get those lines off. So let me try to get those off real fast. And these will have a little bit of a coolant in them, so if something starts spraying, don't completely freak out about it. It's gonna happen. trying to see if I had any play at all to work with. But I unfortunately do not. So we might have to try to find a different set of pliers to work with here. Something curved, perhaps. Sorry, I know my big head is in the way, but definitely need to try to see what's holding us up. If we have to, I can see that at least two of those lines, this one and the back one, are running down here to our thermostat housing, which I don't want to take off if I don't have to. But it's possible that we may have to. I'm gonna move you guys temporarily. See if I can still get you there. They don't give me a lot of room to work with. Let's see. I'm gonna try to just, I don't know what's gonna happen here. We're just gonna try to flex this guy back and forth as much as possible. See what kind of play that will give me. There we go. All right, now we got it off. All right, well, that's a way to crack a finger open. See if we can find something to clean this up with now. All right, so now that we got the throttle body off, looks like we have a nice aluminum gasket on here. I do have a replacement one that we may or may not end up using, but for now we're just going to set this one off to the side. And then we have a sensor that goes to the idle air control down here that we're going to unplug. Okay. And then we have 1, 2, 3 different tubes that will have to come off of here as well. So let's see what we can't figure out as far as getting those off. I think we'll start with trying these perhaps. I know they make a specific tool for this, I just don't happen to have it. So we're gonna, if anything, if we can turn it a little bit, there we go. So that's one off of there. And we can try to very carefully apply a little bit of pressure to that just to twist it. You don't want to put a lot on there because you could rub a hole in it and then that would not be good at all. So like I said, I do expect a little bit of coolant to flow out of here, like that right there. We're just going to try to set it off to the side somehow where it won't leak out everywhere. And then, of course, there's going to be a little bit that's going to come out of that. So then we have another one here beside it with the same style clamp on it. And I would definitely recommend that if you're doing this, once you go to put it back together, try to shift those into a position, if possible, to where it will make your life easier to get this thing back on. And if at any future point, if you had to take it back apart, well, then you won't have to fight it as much. So then we got that one off. So then I'm going to take and do the same thing. I'm going to take a pair of pliers, not apply a lot of pressure to it, but just good enough to bite on that rubber hose, just to break it free, especially if it's never been off before. Like I said, you just want to work it back and forth till it comes loose relatively easy. Or you could take a pick or something, or even a flat tip screwdriver. They have a tool that's a specialty pair of pliers to do the same thing with. Sometimes you can do a flat tip screwdriver and get up under there toward the top of where it's flush mounted, and you can just give it just a little bit of a wiggle, and that'll break the vacuum seal on it like that. So we're going to be really careful like that. And then we have one more on here that I'm not quite sure. This looks like it's held on by tension from what I can see, and not actually got a hose on it, which is odd. Or a hose clamp rather. So we're definitely going to be careful with that guy. Yeah, there's not even a clamp on this one, so it must not have, I'm not sure what it's for, but we're definitely going to try to be careful and not tear it, because it runs all the way up underneath the intake manifold itself, and we don't want to get into that nightmare if we don't have to. And also be careful when pulling these things apart, because if your hand slips and it slips the wrong way, well, then you'll end up with a big old gash in your finger like I did. And we don't want that. All right, so there's all three of it off. So now our throttle body is off. I just dropped a vacuum line, which is not good. I need to find that. So we're gonna go ahead and go over here to the bench. I'll get you guys set up, and then I'll be right back as soon as I find where this vacuum line fell to. Okay, so now we got our throttle body. This is our auto air control valve. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws on it. We're gonna do our best to get this guy off. Chances are the Phillips head screws that are in there are more than likely gonna be stuck. But we're gonna do our absolute best. There's a few different ways to try to get this thing apart. I'm gonna apologize for the shakiness. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my little bitty ratchet and find a socket that works with my bits, which would be 1/4 inch, and we're going to try to get the perfect size for this, which I believe we're going to try a Phillips number 2, see if it fits in there. You want it to be as perfect of a fit as possible. So that's 1. So we know that one's loose now. That's 2. It's 3. It's kind of already stripped, so I'm kind of concerned about it. So before I go too far into that deal and turn this into a nightmare, we're going to take a pair of vice grips. I happen to have a small set. We're going to wrap around it. And we're going to try to loosen it up that way. So just bite onto the edges of it wherever you can. Get it as tight as you can. And then hopefully it'll come loose like that. And then you can go back to your screwdriver or what have you. And then what I'll do is I'll end up taking a Dremel, and I'll cut a straight notch across that, turning that into a flat tip. So when I go to reinstall it, I know I can get a nice secure fitment on it. But for now, it's nice and loose. So, see if I can get a better shot for you guys. Yeah, there we go. I got tired of our lighting situation in our previous videos and having to fight that big one around, so I decided to get a headlamp, which is way more easier to get lighting in the situation. Now what you can do is if you can't find one, I was only able to find one place around so far that had this in stock, and I didn't have to wait forever for it to come in, which was carparts.com. It looks like there. It's kind of dirty, kind of disgusting. And then of course inside of here, you can see a coolant passage, and then more or less an airflow section, and then the gasket around it. So let's grab our new one, and just to make sure, we're going to compare to see if there's any kind of difference between the two. The new one did come with a new gasket, so move our throttle body out of the way, and then we'll try to get a comparative on this. And as you can see, new, old, everything looks right to me. Like I said, you could take the time and clean this out, but a new one, like I said, I got it from carparts.com, and I think it was right around $26-ish, $27, somewhere in there, with shipping. Try to get you a number right there, if I can pick it up on camera. There we go. Idle air control valve. That might help you find it, or you can just go to carparts.com and just type in idle air control valve. So that's our new one. Also comes with a new gasket. Sometimes you can get lucky and reuse your old one like that, but if you're like me and you have a new one, why not use the new one? So we're going to try to just pick this guy out of here without tearing it, so that way it's in good condition, so we might as well not destroy it. We're just going to carefully pick this guy out. So we're going to take a small pick. If you don't have a set of picks, you can try other things. Just picks seem to work best, and you can pick up a set of picks at any local hardware store. I picked these up at my local Harbor Freight. I think it was like $3, maybe $4 for a set of them. So we'll set that and our old idle air control valve out. One tip I will give you guys, when you're replacing parts like this, even though we know this is the exact same one, we can actually even go ahead and just temporarily set it on there, and all the bolt holes seem to line up right and comparative. Make sure it all lines up right. And from what I can see, everything does. So we know we have a good fit, but if you wanted to, you can always take your other one, clean it up while you're cleaning up your throttle body, because if you're at your throttle body, you might as well go ahead and clean it up at this point too. When you're cleaning the throttle body, I don't know this to be true. There's supposed to be some type of protective coating on that butterfly there, but you can see on the back there, pretty dirty. Pretty dirty. So we're going to try to clean all of this. We're going to try our best to clean out these passages here, because they're pretty dirty, and then also we're going to clean out the front. When doing this, get yourself a nylon brush. Don't do a wire brush, because there's supposedly like a protective coating on there. If you don't have one of these, you can also use one of the nylon brushes from like a Dremel set or a rotary tool set, whatever you call it. I just happen to have both, so we're going to do our absolute best to get that guy cleaned up to the best of our ability. Also, for tight spaces, like I said, this is a nylon brush for a rotary, so you could get down in here and clean all that out. Get yourself a decent little rag and throttle body cleaner. Don't use anything else but throttle body cleaner. And what we're going to be using this heavy duty carb and throttle body cleaner from Valvoline. Also come with this little red straw, which would be great for all the ports because you want to clean every spot of that you can. Try to get it as clean as possible. The cleaner the better. Also, when you're doing this, make sure you wear eye protection and try your best not to get into anything into this. You don't want any type of chemicals getting into that. So I'm going to start by these little ports right here down our side, even though they're vacuum, and it's going to shoot back up through that, so that's good. We're going to spray down the side there. Got a little rag here. We're going to try to get all inside there with a rag, get anything you can in there just to get it all clean. As clean as possible, especially on the back. I don't know if you guys can really pick that up or not. Try to get you a better view in there, but you can see how black that is around in there. And then we're just simply going to take our little nylon brush and just scrub away till you get it clean. And like I said, if you can't get that in there because it's a tight space, these little small nylon brushes for like a rotary tool, get in there with it. Whatever you can find that's not metal. You don't want any type of an abrasive on here to damage a surface of any kind. Maybe an old toothbrush, anything like that. Just something to get in there and get all that carbon off of there. That carbon will gum it up. It'll look horrible. Sometimes just spraying inside of there works relatively good, but you want to get it as clean as possible. Or if you have the extra time, you could take the side sensor off here. You could take that off, and you could take this thing down to its bare minimum. And if you have like a parts cleaner, like a parts tank, you could even soak it in a parts tank. Whatever you got to do, just get it as clean as you possibly can. You guys can kind of already see, kind of sort of, it's already getting a lot better as is. We're just going to keep chopping away at it. Another tip for you is if you do take your throttle body off, I know on a lot of your newer cars, some of them have more sensors than others, so you'll have to reset your sensor on them, which is why sometimes people are scared to do it because it seems kind of scary. It's really not that bad. Call that good. Like I said, you can spend as much time on it as you'd like. For me, this is good enough. So we're going to take our new gasket, line it up inside this little groove here. If you want, you could always use a little RTV to help seat it if you need. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to try to line it up to the best of my ability and send it. Yeah. That one little edge right there wants to fight me a little bit. But anyway, so just make sure you line that up correctly. All right. Line it up best you can. Set that on there. Take our bolts. We're not going to tighten all the way down just yet. We're just going to get them started the best we can. Get it so far down, about like that, maybe a little more. You still want a little bit of play because of up and down with a new gasket, especially on an O-ring style gasket. It tends to flare up on one side or the other. So like I said, we're just going to do our best to get them started. Doing a crisscross pattern, that way you know chances are it's going to actually seat a lot better. So then finger tight like that. Then we're going to go back to this one. There we go on that. And then like I said before, I'm actually going to take this one, because you can see, maybe you can see, head's a little bit damaged on it. I'm actually going to take a cutoff wheel on a Dremel and notch that out real fast. Alright, well, my Dremel died, so I said I was going to, but maybe I'm not going to. So we're just going to have to work with what we can on that. It'll be fine. If 3 won't seal, 4 never would. I think it was more or less getting it off anyway. Okay, so now we're gonna, like I said, go in a cross pattern. So if we start here, go up here, and then go from here, here, and then down to here. Keep it in a star-like pattern. It's the most important step. If you're doing a star type pattern, then you know it's actually going to seal. And if it doesn't seal, then you know it wasn't your fault. It's an issue with the gasket or something of that nature, and not something that you did. And like I said, I'm going to continue to use a ratchet on this because it allows me to add a little bit more control and a little bit more pressure to it. So you don't want to go full send on each one. Just go around in a crisscross pattern, like I said, and go to each one. And as you start to feel a little tension on it, like you're gonna have to, once you feel a little pressure, there you go. So a little resistance. When you feel a little resistance, just stop and then go back in a crisscross pattern. So then we went there, so now we're gonna go up here, little resistance, cut down here, little resistance, go back up, little bit of resistance, go over here, little, and just keep working it like that. Don't full send on one side just because you got all 4 of them in there. Yeah. So for me, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take my pliers again. I'm gonna lock down on it and just give it a little bit more like that. And I'm gonna call that one good enough. And the reason you want to do that is, one, you want to get a good seal on your gasket, but also it's aluminum, and if you go too tight really fast and you do a full send, well, then you have the chances of actually cracking it. You don't want to crack it. So we've got her cleaned, we've got our new auto air control sensor on. So now we're going to go back over here to the car where we started at. Set that there. Try to get you guys set up in a position that you can be able to see. There we go. Yeah. Now the fun part begins, of which it's the game and the challenge of figuring out what goes where. Oh yeah, before I forget, we did say we had a new throttle body gasket as well. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this one just yet. We're actually gonna take a look at it. So let's walk back over here real fast so we can compare it to the old one. Set you guys up best I can. Okay, we're just gonna open our new one up. I believe I got this off of Amazon. See if I can get all that in there. There's your part number as a reference. Like I said, the old one here, definitely metal. You can actually see on the edge right here. Plus you can hear it. So we're gonna carefully open this guy up here. That way, if I'm not happy with it, then I still have the original packaging to send it back in. Yeah, like I said, so this is the new one. It is a cork style gasket. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pick you guys up for a minute. So what I'm gonna do is, there's the old one. I'm just gonna take the new one, lay it right over top of it. And as we can see, for the most part, it appears to be the exact same. Maybe a few edges where it's a little bit smaller. I'm reluctant to do it, but I'm gonna go ahead anyway, and we're gonna put the new gasket, the new paper gasket on there. I'm gonna keep my original gasket because as you can see, it wasn't super horrible to get this apart. So we're just gonna take our new one, check how it lines up on there. That looks like that's it. Let's flip it around. I think I might have had that guy backwards there. Because you can see an indentation. Yeah, so there we go. That would have been bad if I'd covered up that little porthole. So yeah, this is how it goes. We're just gonna shove that guy on there and start reassembly from our outer one. Okay, that guy's back on there. Now we can seat that coolant line back on there like that. Let me set that there for a second. Now we got to take our clamp. Ooh, don't do that. Start to get a little sparkage there. Mr. Cable needs to stay out of the way here, apparently. We don't need you arcing and sparking, that's for sure. Let's tuck you way back here for now. Out of the way. Don't start causing trouble for me. And then grab that, pull that up like that. That's one on there. Then we got our hidden one over here. Just try to get this little guy out of the way. I'm sorry, little vacuum line. Then we got you hidden away back here, all tucked up out of the way and whatnot. Then we press you up on there just like that, and you should be really, really easy to get to as long as my hands work. Just like that. Hose clamp back up on there, and at this point we're basically just doing reverse assembly. So now that all that is hooked back up, just want to go back around, make sure we did everything. So we got all the vacuum lines up top hooked up. We have this guy hooked up, which is your throttle position sensor. We have 1, 2, 3 hoses, 2 of them being coolant. One of them, I believe, is going to be a vacuum. hooked back up to the idle air control valve. And now what we're going to go to is we're going to take this guy here, which we know goes right here. Loosen that nut just a little bit. Like I said, not much, just good enough to get down on there. And then we'll tighten him back up by hand like that for temporary. And then I'm going to take a pair of pliers to help me out here, just to hold this like this. We're going to push it through that lower point there to get that started. Go ahead and get a little bit more throttle out of here. Like that. Now that will hold my throttle. So then, well, my kick down cable. So now that's pushed in there. Make sure that that's recessed back in there properly into this little loop here. So then that's the bottom one hooked up now. So then, without arcing off of our battery or hitting anything, we're going to take our top one, going to do a slight bend. We got our bushing that was on there, which helped us remember which is which. I'm going to give it the beans, click it on there, and now open the throttle up. So now you shouldn't have to stretch that cable with the throttle wide open. Click it in, recess it. There we go. Make sure it's fully seated and that the cable sets down inside the channel. Now that's fully back assembled. Now the only thing we'll have to do is put the cold air intake back on, which takes about 2 seconds. And like I said, guys, always go back behind yourself. Make sure you tightened everything down. It's better to have to go back and redo something now than it is to have to do it later. So like I said, we have our throttle hooked back up. We need to still tighten that nut just a little bit. We have the 3 hoses on the bottom hooked up. We have the idle air control valve sensor plugged back in. We have the throttle position sensor plugged back in. The 3 hoses on the bottom. We have our cold air intake back on. The 2 vacuum lines off of the EGR vacuum. And then these 2 vacuum hoses here. As long as you can figure out a way to put everything back to where it originally went, everything should go back together really well. And then depending on how long it takes you to get everything back together, it may affect how it starts at first. So for right at this moment, we're going to set you guys over here. And we're just going to go ahead, make sure all my tools are out of the way. I don't see anything. I think we're good to go ahead and start this. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Well, she started right up, so that's good. So now we can go over here. This would be a good time to check for leaks, check for vacuum leaks, coolant leaks, anything that you possibly can. I think we're good. I don't see any leaks of any kind. We're going to give her a few rips and see. Sounds good, guys. While it's kind of warming up real fast, the last thing I am going to do is that bolt or that nut that was on that throttle cable. I'm going to give it a real good snug. Now, like I said, when I originally, with the original one, I noticed that at idle and park it was fine. When you would get up to operating temperature and you would pull it down into either reverse or drive, you could feel a little bit of a jitter to it. I know this car isn't fully warmed up yet, but we are going to go ahead and see what happens so that I can let you guys know if this was a success or if it was a complete fail. Okay, well, right out the gate, let me say this. When doing repairs like this, you might not see a significant difference right out the gate. The car isn't fully warmed up. I did notice a little bit of difference. I was getting a lot of vibration through the steering wheel when it was in, like I said, reverse or neutral initially. That has gone. It still runs kind of iffy. It could be in part because of the cold air intake and it having to warm up. I'll keep you guys updated to see if there's a lot of difference. I already see a little bit of difference, which is good. That could be contributed to just cleaning the throttle body. It could also be contributed to the idle air control, but I think we're on a good track as far as getting this car to run the way I want it to run. But yeah, never doing it before. It's going to be different on everybody's car. I'm going to rate it, like I said, on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to put it as far as difficulty on a scale of maybe 4 to 5. Other than an electric ratchet, it's all basic hand tools that I used. A 12 millimeter socket. I used a 14 millimeter wrench to get the one throttle cable off. And I used a regular pair of lineman pliers and a pair of, I think it's like a 45-ish degree pair of needle nose pliers, long necks. Just to be able to get to those vacuums, but basic hand tools. But yeah, hopefully that helps somebody out, especially if you have a mid-90s Corolla or a Camry. I believe a lot of the mid-90s Corollas up to, I want to say 99, maybe 2000, used the exact same style of idle air control valve for these cars. And yeah, I hope it helps somebody out. And if it didn't, if you don't have one of these cars, maybe it just gave you a little bit of education for later down the road, for if you have to do something like this on, maybe you're working on somebody's car, or a friend or a grandmother or what have you. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Please like and subscribe, especially if this helped you out, or if you learned something that you didn't know. Liking and subscribing definitely helps the channel grow. I know we're just starting out. We've only been at it for a few months. Trying to get you guys the absolute best content that I possibly can. Still have a lot of future projects for this car. Have other projects in the works for other vehicles. But that's it. Like I said, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time.